Hey guys, it's Showtime here, back with another video. Today we'll be discussing the inspirational story of Chauncey Billups' career, a man that transformed his career from draft bust to NBA superstar. Before we look at his rebirth, however, we must look at how he became a bust early on. Chauncey was born on September 25th, 1976 in Denver, Colorado. Growing up as a kid, Chauncey was an extremely talented basketball player. In fact, he was so talented that he made the varsity basketball team as a freshman, and he also earned a starting job. At George Washington High School, Chauncey was viewed as one of the best basketball players in the entire country. He was a 4-time All-State first-team pick, named Colorado Mr. Basketball 3 times, and Colorado Player of the Year as a sophomore and as a junior. He was also selected to the 1995 McDonald's All-American team, but did not play due to a shoulder injury. Despite being recruited by some of the top schools in the country like Kansas and Georgia Tech, Chauncey chose to play basketball at the University of Colorado. He stated that he wanted to remain close to home when it came to his college decision. In his first year at Colorado, he set a school record for points scored by a freshman and was named to the Big 8 All-Freshman team, as well as the All-Big 8 Conference second team and the Kansas City Star Big 8 team. Despite all this individual success Chauncey was receiving, Colorado still finished with only a 9-18 record. Joe Harrington was fired and was replaced by Tad Boyle for the next season. With the new coach, Colorado finished with 22 wins. Those were the most amount of wins the Buffaloes had in a season since 1968. Chauncey gained national attention. He even led the Buffaloes to an upset win over the Indiana Hoosiers in the NCAA tournament. With all of his accomplishments, and the fact he was able to receive these accomplishments at such a non-powerhouse school such as Colorado, Chauncey was viewed as a top 5 pick in the upcoming NBA draft. With the 3rd overall pick in the 1997 NBA draft, the Celtics decided to take him. At this point, the Celtics were 12 years removed from their last NBA title. They hadn't made the playoffs since 1994 and hadn't even posted a winning season since 1992. The Celtics were now coached by Rick Pitino, and their best player at the time was Antoine Walker, who would go down as one of the biggest ball hogs of all time. The team was in a complete rebuild and were not equipped to help Chauncey succeed. Chauncey was a combo guard. He would often shoot shots at a high volume. With the lack of true shooters on the roster, Chauncey struggled to fit into the role of a point guard. He was also forced to play a lot of shooting guard due to the fact that Antoine Walker was their starting point guard. The worst part about Chauncey's time in Boston would have to be his relationship with coach Rick Pitino. Chauncey felt like Rick didn't respect his talents. Because of all this drama, the Celtics had no choice but to trade Chauncey to the Toronto Raptors before the season even ended. It would be one of only 4 times a rookie was traded mid-season. The other 3 players were Moses Malone, Joe Johnson, and James Edwards. Chauncey Billups was put in a similar role in Toronto. The Raptors already had an established point guard in Doug Christie and didn't have use for Chauncey. They made the same mistake as the Celtics did and made him play shooting guard. Chauncey finished his rookie season with averages of 11.2 points per game, 3.9 assists per game, and a field goal percentage of 37.4%. While these numbers aren't the worst, they're certainly below expectations to the caliber of player everyone thought Chauncey Billups was. Because of this, he was traded away again, this time to his hometown team, the Denver Nuggets. The late 90s Denver Nuggets could only be described as one word: horrible. The constant changing of coaches and players revealed a lack of stability in the organization. Despite this, the Nuggets thought they could continue to play Chauncey at shooting guard, this time alongside point guard Nick Van Exel, but he just didn't belong at that position. He did improve his scoring average to 13.9 points per game, but he was still shooting below 40% from the field and the 3-point line. He did play for 13 games in the next season, but was eventually traded to the Orlando Magic. He would never play a game with the Magic due to another shoulder injury. At this point in his NBA career, Chauncey Billups was regarded in most NBA circles as a bust. He'd already been traded 3 times in a span of 2 years. Not only did he struggle to fit into the NBA, but he also had issues with injuries. It just seemed like Chauncey would end up being another cautionary tale about how success in college doesn't translate to success in the NBA. With the option to finally pick what team he could go to, he decided to go to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was signed to be the backup point guard to Terrell Brandon, a two-time All-Star point guard. Billups would also have the chance to play with Kevin Garnett, one of the greatest power forwards in NBA history. Chauncey and Kevin Garnett actually knew each other before the NBA. In fact, they were friends in high school. Guys like Sam Mitchell were also good players in their own right. They also had one of the best head coaches in the NBA at the time, in Flip Saunders. These players would serve more than just starters on the Timberwolves, though. They would be the people to help save Chauncey Billups' career. Sam Mitchell would help Chauncey learn how to be a professional. As Chauncey would later write in a letter to his younger self, which he wrote in the Players Tribune, he went on to tell his younger self that Sam's going to be invaluable in teaching you what it means to be a pro. Those little adjustments, those little maturations, those subtle lessons that you didn't even know you hadn't learned, that's Sam. Terrell Brandon would provide Chauncey with the most amount of help amongst all these players. Terrell Brandon taught Chauncey that playing the role of a point guard is more than just having the ball in your hand. He taught him that by having the ball in your hands, you control the entire offense. Chauncey wrote about how much his perspective changed in the same Players Tribune article. Before Terrell, your attitude going into games is going to be unsophisticated at best. Play well and win the game. That's it. But Terrell is going to put you on this whole other level. Now it's, when does Kevin want the ball? Where does Wally like to catch it? What specific play do I have to call to get this specific guy the ball in this specific spot? When and where and how is it best to get mine? Chauncey only averaged 9.3 points per game, but he improved his field goal percentage to 42% and his three-point percentage to 37%, both of which were career highs at the time. Chauncey's improvement would finally be showcased in the very next season. Early in the season, Terrell Brandon tore his ACL and was ruled out for the rest of the season. It was time for the student to become the teacher. Chauncey was handed the keys to the offense and had an impressive season. He averaged 12.5 points per game, 5.5 assists per game, and only 1.7 turnovers per game. He accomplished these stats while shooting 42% from the field and 39% from the three-point line. He finally looked like the top prospect that everyone thought he could be, but he still wasn't fully developed. Chauncey wanted to return to Minnesota, but they were dealing with cap issues, plus they still had Brandon under contract and wanted to wait out his situation. Chauncey decided to sign with the Detroit Pistons on a 6-year, $35 million contract. He was immediately named the starting point guard and would join Rip Hamilton in the backcourt. He also had the opportunity to play with Ben Wallace and Cliff Robinson. The Pistons would finish with a 52-30 record and made the Eastern Conference Finals, only to be swept by the New Jersey Nets. The most interesting part about this team is that none of their salaries exceeded $8 million and none of them made the All-Star team. The team went on to hire Larry Brown in the offseason, a Hall of Fame level coach. The signing of Rasheed Wallace finally put Detroit over the top. The very next season, they went 54-28 and won the 2004 NBA championship. He averaged 17 points per game and 6 assists per game. He got the honor of being named Finals MVP. For the rest of his NBA career, Chauncey went on to make the All-Star game 5 times, and he accomplished this in consecutive years from 2005 to 2010. He also went on to average 16.7 points per game and 6 assists per game. He became known as a tenacious defender over the second half of his career. Looking back at all of his accomplishments in the NBA, it's really hard to imagine that he was almost out of the NBA by the age of 24. Everyone fails at some point in their lives, even athletes. Some people don't know how to handle the attention that comes with failure, and some can never overcome their own struggles. But Chauncey proves to all of us that with hard work and an open mind, you can change the narrative of your career and your life. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.